Ever get that feeling, when you're faced with just a mountain of information, especially in a really complex field like, say, engineering, and you just think, where? Where do I even start?
Oh, absolutely. It's overwhelming.
Right. It feels like trying to build a skyscraper out of, I don't know, individual grains of sand.
Exactly.
Well, today we're taking a really fascinating look at how one of the giants in the semiconductor industry decided to tackle that challenge head on for their engineering teams specifically.
Yeah, we've got some excerpts from a document that's from Orbit and Skyline. They specialize in instructional design training, mainly for engineers.
Okay.
In this document, it details the work they did with a major Fortune 500 semiconductor company. So you get a sort of behind-the-scenes look.
Ah, okay. Like a case study.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A look at how a leading tech firm approached, the really crucial task of upskilling its people.
So our goal then in this deep dive is to really understand what this company did. How did they make their engineering training, well, better, more effective?
Right. What were the hurdles?
Yeah, what were the hurdles they were facing? What kind of solutions did they put in place? And ultimately, what can you take away from this?
Yeah, for the listener.
Exactly. Whether you're dealing with complex technical training yourself, or maybe you're just trying to get your head around a really complicated subject.
Makes sense.
So let's jump right in. What was the situation? What was going on with this semiconductor behemoth?
Well, okay, even though this company was, a leader in its field, and they even had their own instructional design team,
Right.
the document reveals they were grappling with some pretty significant issues. Their engineering projects were just getting more and more complex,
Ah.
which demanded really specialized training design. The big challenges, it seems, were around scale, how to scale their training, and just the ever-present pressure of time.
Always time.
Always time. Tight deadlines. The sheer volume of ongoing work. It made it incredibly difficult for their internal teams to develop the high-quality training materials they needed. And, crucially, they needed them fast.
So it wasn't necessarily like they didn't know this stuff internally.
No, not at all.
It was more about the capacity, maybe, and the specific skills needed to turn that knowledge into effective, scalable training all under the gun.
Precisely. They needed, like you said, some extra firepower.
Yeah.
Specialized skills.
Right.
They recognized they needed a reliable partner. Someone who could not just, take some work off their internal team's plates, but also bring a real focused expertise in creating engaging learning experiences. Experiences that would actually, stick with their engineers, make an impact.
So they weren't just looking for more training. They wanted better training.
Yeah.
Training that resonated.
Exactly. Something that led to measurable improvements in skills and understanding.
And that's where Orbit and Skyline came into the picture then.
That's right.
Okay, so what was their basic approach, their fundamental philosophy maybe, for tackling these really specific challenges?
Well, their main focus, according to this document, was all about taking that very technical, often really dense information.
Yeah, engineering specs can be like that.
Oh, yeah. And transforming it into training materials
Yeah.
that were first clear, but also crucially, truly comprehensible for the engineers.
Comprehensible. Okay.
It wasn't about, dumbing things down, not at all.
Yeah.
It was about structuring it, presenting the information in a way that really facilitated genuine understanding
Yeah.
and retention.
And they weren't just relying on like PowerPoint decks and lectures, were they? The document mentions specific software tools.
No, definitely not old school methods. They used industry standard software, things like Adobe Captivate and Articulate Storyline.
Ah, I've heard of those. E-learning tools.
Exactly. Really powerful tools for creating interactive e-learning modules. Simulations, quizzes, things that go way beyond just passive reading.
Right.
They also use Camtasia for video creation and editing, which is vital if you need to demonstrate complex processes.
It makes sense.
But what's really interesting is their emphasis, the document mentions, on crafting engaging scenario-based learning experiences.
Scenario-based. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, it suggests a really deliberate shift towards practical application. So engineers learn by actively solving, simulated real-world problems.
Ah, so instead of just reading about a potential issue on the factory floor, maybe?
Exactly. You're actually working through a simulated version of it. You make decisions. You see the consequences right there in the simulation.
That sounds much more active. And probably sticky is the word that comes to mind. It sticks with you better.
Definitely seems more effective than just pure theory.
Now, okay, this is semiconductors we're talking about. It's cutting edge, probably pretty sensitive stuff. How did they manage bringing in an external partner like Orbit and Skyline while still, fostering innovation and making sure the quality was super high? Were there challenges there?
That's a really crucial point. Innovation in these technical fields, it often requires such a deep, specific understanding. Orbit and Skyline's strategy, as the document puts it, involved finding common ground with stakeholders.
Okay, common ground, meaning,
Well, it likely meant a very collaborative approach, working really closely with the semiconductor company's own engineers, their subject matter experts, SMEs.
got it, the internal gurus.
Exactly. To make sure that the training solutions they were proposing actually aligned with the internal knowledge, the internal standards, but also introduced fresh, effective learning techniques.
So it's a balancing act.
It's always a tightrope walk, right?
Yeah.
Balancing that desire for innovation with the absolute need for accuracy and, of course, timely delivery.
Okay, so summarizing that bit. Collaborative, tech-driven, focused on scenarios. Makes sense. Now, the document also lays out a specific 3-step strategic approach they used. Let's delve into those steps. What was step 1 all about?
Step 1, okay, that was all about introducing modern learning methodologies, things we sometimes hear buzzwords about, but applied seriously here,
Like what?
like gamification.
Ah, okay. Points and badges. Or more than that.
Probably more sophisticated than just points, but yeah, adding game-like elements to learning to boost motivation. Also simulations, which we already touched on.
Right.
And micro-learning.
Breaking things down.
Yeah, breaking complex topics into smaller, more manageable chunks. Bite-sized learning. But again, as we discussed, the real cornerstone here, it seems, was that deliberate use of scenario-based learning.
Right, the practical application.
Exactly. The aim was to make the training immediately relevant, putting engineers right into realistic situations they'd actually encounter in their day-to-day work.
Gamification, simulations, micro-learning. Yeah, you hear those terms a lot in L&D, learning and development. It's fascinating to see them being really strategically applied in such a high-stakes, super technical industry. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 then focused on the transformation of the technical content itself. Is that right?
Yeah.
How do they actually do that? Make that dense info more, what was the phrase? Engaging and easy to understand. How does that work in practice?
Well, this is where that real instructional design expertise comes into play. They talk about a process of, first, analyzing the complex technical information, and then restructuring it, putting it into more logical, more digestible modules.
Makes sense.
And the document, again, really emphasizes the use of those interactive software tools we mentioned, Articulate Storyline, Adobe Captivate, Camtasia, and they also mentioned Vyond. That's often used for creating animated explainer videos.
Ah, animation, right.
So these tools let them move beyond just, static text on a screen. They could create visually rich, interactive learning experiences. Things with animations, simulations, interactive exercises that really actively involve the learner.
So it wasn't just like, here's the manual, but now it's online.
No, far from it.
It was actively redesigning the whole learning experience, making it more intuitive, more engaging somehow.
That's the idea.
Which, makes a huge difference in how well someone can actually absorb and then retain really complex information. Okay, and what about step 3? What was the final critical piece of their strategy?
Step 3 was all about quality assurance.
Yeah.
And fostering really strong collaboration.
Quality and collaboration. Okay.
Yeah. So they implemented multi-level reviews for all the training materials, checking for technical accuracy, obviously, but also consistency in the messaging.
Important.
Very. And maybe most importantly, they emphasized proactive, ongoing collaboration with the client's own subject matter experts.
The SMEs again.
The SMEs again. The engineers who actually had that deep technical knowledge. This close partnership was, the document suggests it was absolutely vital.
Vital for what?
For guaranteeing that the training content wasn't just, engaging and well-designed from an instructional standpoint, but that it was also technically sound. Completely accurate.
That collaboration piece, it really does seem to be a recurring theme here, doesn't it?
It does.
And for good reason, I suppose. You can have the most amazing, innovative instructional design in the world. But if it's not deeply connected to the actual technical expertise, the real-world stuff, you risk creating training that maybe looks good, but just doesn't accurately reflect the reality on the ground.
Exactly. It has to be grounded.
Okay, so moving beyond those three strategic steps, the document also seems to highlight some key execution strategies in a bit more detail. What stood out to you there?
Well, one point they kept coming back to was that absolute focus on creating clear and comprehensible content.
Again, with the clarity.
Yes.
Right.
It wasn't just like a stated aim on a slide somewhere.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a real guiding principle in how they approached every single aspect of the training development.
How so?
They actively work to break down those intricate technical details into learning units that were understandable, using clear language, logical sequencing, making it make sense.
Right, and the second thing.
Secondly, that emphasis on proactive collaboration with SMEs really bears repeating.
Yeah.
Their internal review process, Orbit and Skylines, involved multiple sages within their own team, sure, but it was that deep, continuous partnership with the client's subject matter experts that seemed to have been the real linchpin.
Linchpin, good word.
Yeah. The key thing for, as the document says, exceeding expectations. Not just meeting them, but exceeding them, particularly on content accuracy and relevance.
So it wasn't just like, here's the draft, sign off, please.
No, it sounds much more like an ongoing dialogue, iterative.
Right, an integrated, iterative process rather than just a linear handoff.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third key execution strategy they highlight, driving high engagement with gamification. Was that just, adding points and badges as an afterthought?
It sounds like definitely not. The document makes it pretty clear that gamification was intentionally woven into the fabric of the courses.
Woven in? How?
Well, the aim was to tap into learners' intrinsic motivation, making the whole learning experience more lively, more enjoyable, frankly.
Even for complex engineering topics.
Yeah, it wasn't about trivializing the content, not at all. It was about finding ways to make the process of learning itself more rewarding, more stimulating, even for, highly technical professionals. Maybe a simulation with scoring or perhaps a challenge-based learning module where you compete against criteria or even colleagues.
Interesting. So, okay, all these strategies, the three steps, the execution details, they sound incredibly well thought out, very deliberate. But the bottom line question, right? Did they actually work? Did they translate into real results for the semiconductor company?
It seems so, yeah.
Did they see a tangible difference after implementing all these changes?
Absolutely. The document provides some pretty compelling, quantifiable results.
Numbers.
They reported a significant 25% increase in learner engagement with the new training programs.
25% increase in engagement. Wow.
And, maybe even more impressively, a 30% improvement in test scores among the engineers who went through the updated training.
30% better scores. Okay, those are numbers that definitely speak for themselves.
They really do. It's a clear demonstration of the power of, well, effective instructional design when it's done right.
Were there any other positive outcomes, maybe less quantifiable, but still significant things they noticed?
Yeah, they also noted higher course completion rates.
Ah, that's a big one. Often hard to get people to finish online training.
It is. It's a common struggle in a lot of professional training programs. So higher completion rates was a plus. Additionally, there was anecdotal feedback suggesting increased employee motivation. People actually wanted to complete the courses more.
Which suggests the engaging design was working on that level too.
Exactly. It was having a positive impact on learners' attitudes. And finally, the new, well-structured approach apparently made for faster, more efficient training rollouts.
Which goes right back to one of their original problems, right? The time constraints.
Precisely. It directly addressed those initial challenges related to speed and efficiency.
Okay, so let's try and bring it all together then. If we boil it down, what are the core lessons, the key takeaways we can extract from this deep dive, from how this Fortune 500 company transformed its engineering training?
I think the key takeaways really boil down to maybe three fundamental principles. First, just the critical importance of clear, accessible communication, especially when you're dealing with really complex technical information.
Clarity first. Got it.
Second, the significant impact you can get from incorporating engaging learning methods, like the gamification we talked about, and especially that scenario-based learning.
Yeah.
It affects both how engaged learners are and how much they actually retain.
So engagement methods matter. And third,
the, almost indispensable value of building strong strategic partnerships and fostering that deep, ongoing collaboration with subject matter experts, your SMEs.
Right. Can't do it without the experts involved.
You need that partnership to ensure both the accuracy and the relevance of whatever training you're creating.
And for you, the listener, I mean, whether you're tackling complex training in your own job, or maybe you're just trying to master a difficult new skill personally,
Mm-hmm.
these strategies we've discussed, they really offer a kind of valuable framework, don't they?
I think so.
That focus on clear communication, using engaging methods, collaborating with people who really know their stuff. You can apply that in countless situations, really, to make learning feel more effective and maybe a bit less overwhelming.
Yeah, and this raises a really interesting point, maybe something for you to consider. In a world where technology and knowledge are just constantly evolving and the pace feels like it's
It
accelerating,
really does.
how can individuals and how can organizations proactively embrace these kinds of instructional design principles? This focus on clarity, engagement, collaboration,
How can they use it to do what?
to really cultivate a culture of continuous learning, to make sure that they and their people can adapt and thrive when faced with these ever-changing landscapes of knowledge.
So it's not just about delivering a training course now and then.
No, it's bigger than that. It's about fostering a whole mindset of effective lifelong learning. How do we keep learning efficiently as things keep changing? That's the real question.